Ladies and jobbers, kayfabe superstars of all ages, I am PBR, and this is the Raw Report. All right, everyone, let's get into it. Tonight's Monday Night Raw, the go-home show for WrestleMania 35. It's got to be a good one, right? Well, we'll see. So, right out of the gate, Steph's music is already playing. Apparently, she has breaking news. So, Stephanie McMahon is here to give us some awesome news. What could it be? The news is, unsurprisingly, if you watch some, that both women's titles will be on the line in the triple threat match between Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda on Sunday. Now, I don't know if this means unification or if somebody's just going to hold both with the opportunity to lose one or the other, but it doesn't surprise me all. I hope it's unification because with women's tag titles and a women's singles title, it might be better if they only have one titles, but we'll see what happens on Sunday. Next up, Brock comes out. Oh, Brock Lesnar. We started with Stephanie McMahon. Now we've got Brock Lesnar. It's definitely... So Paul Heyman cuts the usual Paul Heyman promo. It's this basically the same thing he said for 4 years. Nothing amazing happens. But Seth Rollins interrupts. Seth Rollins makes some good points, saying that no one wants Brock here. And to be honest, he's not wrong. You know, the booing from the crowd for Brock was way more booing and less cheering than I've heard in a while. And I think everybody's on the same page with just drop the effing title already so that it can be defended on a regular basis. Nobody's taking the Universal title seriously, and they shouldn't, because multiple years now, it hasn't been defended. Eventually, they get into a fight. Rollins, this is strange, Rollins hits not one but two low blows on Lesnar, and then, gets the curb stomp, and he leaves the fight standing. Interesting to me that they had Seth Rollins kind of win that fight with two low blows, because it's very heelish, which is unusual for their, super babyface to do. But hey, I'm glad Seth ended the fight standing tall. The key was to go into WrestleMania, Seth looking like there was a way that he had a valid chance of beating Lesnar. So I don't have a problem with that segment. Not sure about the low blows, but I'm glad it ended with Seth standing tall. So after a quick Seth Rollins interview backstage where, Charlie Caruso was involved, so I'm not going to complain, but nothing, major happened. We get to the next segment, which is a tag match. Beth Phoenix and Natalya and Sasha Banks and Bayley versus the Iconics and Nia Jax and Tamina. Now, you'll recognize this as an 8-woman tag match, which is just a tag match made up of the 8 women who are going to be a 4-way match at WrestleMania for the women's tag team titles. As intern, but can they coexist? Spoiler alert, no, they cannot. Natalya botches her ring entrance, and now, if you follow our page, you've already seen our post about this. It was hilarious. I laughed out loud when I saw it. But Beth Phoenix sits on the middle rope and holds the top rope up so Natalya can get in, and Natalya gets in between the bottom and middle rope, and it's just, man. It was funny. It was very funny. If you're not a follower of our page, go follow it, and you'll see that. Anyway, get into the match. Sasha starts the match for the babyface team, and in 2 minutes, she botches 2 different moves, which is bizarre, because Sasha wrestles a dangerous style, but she doesn't botch stuff all that often, and it didn't look good. So what's going on there? Also, did Peyton Royce dye her hair? Because she looks way different than I remember her. I don't know. But anyway, moving on. Beth Phoenix pushed. Beth Phoenix is reaching for the hot tag from Bayley, and before Bayley can tag Sasha, Beth Phoenix just simply pushed Sasha off the ring apron and then tagged herself in by slapping Bayley in the face, which I thought was a phenomenal little tiny spot there in the middle. They brawled to the outside, and kudos to Beth. Beth Phoenix speared Tamina through the barricade, which is an unusual spot for a women's match. And that was awesome. I will give that a ton of credit. In the end, Beth, Natalya, Sasha, and Bayley. Beth pinned Peyton Royce after a glam slam. We see Batista arrive backstage. After the break, he comes out, stands silently while the crowd chants various things. He is a Washington, D.C. native, and I guess that's where they were tonight. After soaking up a bunch of chants, he points at the Titantron. And I'm going to say it now, but it's going to come up later. I am getting really sick of this trend of somebody coming out to the ring to cut a promo, and then they cut to a Titantron thing. I'm like, no, just do the promo or do the Titantron, then go to the promo. Why does somebody have to come out to the ring and then stand there while everybody in the arena watches a video on the screen? I don't know. Excuse me. But I guess that's what we're doing now, because for the last few weeks, that's been the trend. Anyway, after the video recap of the Batista Triple H feud, we go back to the ring. More silence from Batista while the crowd chants. Finally, Batista says, and I quote, "Triple H, kiss my ass." End of segment. All right. I guess moving on. Back from the break. Jinder Mahal is having a lumberjack match against Apollo Crews. What? Why? What is the point of this? I don't even know. And on top of it, Apollo Crews wins in what felt like 30 seconds. It was probably like a minute and a half. But Apollo Crews won the frog splash. That's not even one of his signatures. Whatever. And the lumberjacks weren't even involved. What was the point of a lumberjack match between two guys who aren't even hard? I don't know. I normally wouldn't complain, but it's the go-home show. It should be more important. But whatever. As it turns out, after the quote-unquote match, all the lumberjacks end up in the ring. They all start fighting, and apparently, I guess this is our Andre the Giant Battle Royal setup, because I guess all these guys are going to be in it. In the end, after the fracas, Apollo Crews comes out on top, kisses the statue, and I'm calling it right now. PBR, Monday night, April 1st, not an April Fool's joke, calling it right now. Apollo Crews is going to win the Battle Royal. Or Jinder Mahal will win after Rob Gronkowski interferes and messes it all up, and Jinder wins. But either way, it doesn't matter. Whoever wins, they're not going anywhere. So let's just move on. So Kurt Angle comes out for a match with Rey Mysterio. Now, before the match, a video package airs on Kurt's career and all this video package. It's at this point in the show, it's the best thing that's happened on the show. And when the video package is over, they cut back to Kurt in the ring, and he's clearly very emotional over it, and it's a phenomenal touch of realism, and everything's great. And then Baron Corbin's music hits, and my God, that is phenomenal booking right there. Like, I know the fans aren't hot on the idea of Corbin being Angle's WrestleMania opponent, but you want to talk about nuclear heat? That's the way to do it. You emotional video, Angle's emotional in the ring, and then Baron Corbin, complete with Olive Garden manager vest, comes out to just antagonize him, and that's a great touch. So Corbin says that Angle can't hang with the superstars of today, which, to be honest, is kind of true. Anyway, he acknowledges that the fans think Angle deserves a better opponent than himself, and then he rubs the fans' faces in the fact that, hey, if you want to talk about how to book a heel tonight, Baron, how you book a heel, in my opinion. So Angle challenges Corbin to a match instead of Rey Mysterio. Corbin teases accepting, but in classic heel fashion, changes his mind and starts to walk away. Then Rey Mysterio comes out, challenges in place of Angle. Corbin declines because, again, phenomenal, that scaredy cat heel work. In the end, the three-men fight. Rey and Kurt come out on top. Baron Corbin runs away. Everybody's happy. I'm sure it won't come into play later. We cut backstage. Charlotte interviewed backstage by Charlie Caruso, which I really only made a note of because, again, any Charlie Caruso segment is worth watching. And then, next segment. Now, at this point, I should point out that at this point in the show, I'm sitting here going, this is the go-home show to WrestleMania, and this is a terrible show. Like, everything has seemed boring or inconsequential. It just wasn't good. Now, I point that out because after we get back from the break, we get Ricochet and Aleister Black versus the Revival for the Tag Team Championships, which on the surface seems a little weird because, the match hasn't been announced, but it stands to reason that these guys are facing each other at WrestleMania. And then on top of that, Aleister Black and Ricochet have the NXT Tag Team Championship on Friday night against War Machine. So it seems a little weird to just give this away on free TV, but all of my complaints were erased within minutes. This match between Aleister Black and Ricochet was probably the best television match in months. I wasn't into it at first because I was like, well, what's the point? But they hooked me very quickly. And for one, the double Hurricane Rana by Ricochet on the Revival. I've never seen somebody do that. It looked like Ricochet killed himself in the process or came very close to it. That popped me. And within a minute, Dash Wilder did a gory special. I forget whether it was Black or Ricochet. I think it was Ricochet. Got him into a gory special and turned it into a slam, which I've also never seen. And at that point, I'm sitting there going, this match is great. A phenomenal television match. On top of that, Ricochet does a somersault plancha over the top rope and the ring post and hits both the Revival on the outside. Great stuff. They had the whole crowd and me that at every near fall, we were invested. We were ready to go. And that is the mark of a great television match. And in the end, the finish was great. And if you're thinking, okay, these guys are going to face each other at WrestleMania, so what's the point of this? Obviously, both teams have to be kept kind of strong, whatever. So you're expecting double disqualification, double countout, some sort of weird schmaz finish, all this. And it's kind of what you got, but it was very original. The Revival is, everybody's knocked out of the ring after the somersault plancha. So Dash Wilder gets back in the ring. So now Ricochet has to get into the ring to beat the count of 10, doing the classic, teasing the count out, gets up, starts apron at the count of like 8 or 9, but Scott Dawson is under the ring and pulls his foot out from under him, and he falls down, doesn't beat the count. Revival wins via count out to hold on to the titles, but keep the thing going. I thought that was a great finish. It's something we haven't seen in a long time, if ever. Great stuff around. Great match. Nothing to complain about there. And of course, after the match, Ricochet and Aleister Black maintained their heat because they beat up the Revival and everybody looked good going forward. So, after a pointless backstage segment with Alexa Bliss, Tyler Breeze, EC3, and Braun Strowman, plus a couple jobbers in the hallway, which I only point out because it comes into play later, we move on to Roman Reigns being interviewed backstage by somebody who's not Charlie Caruso, which automatically is my disapproval. But before Roman can get too many things out of his mouth, Drew McIntyre interrupts and basically kicks his ass, which is fine, keeps that feud going. Obviously, they have a match at Mania. Perfect, good to go. Next match, the Riot Squad, Liv, Ruby, and Sarah take on Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Ronda. Now, the title of this video is PBR marks out over Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda. Here's why. The match itself is just a little match, doesn't matter. The point of this match was setting up the post-match angle. Although, before I get to it, I do have to point out one hilarious thing. At some point during the match, Corey Graves said something on commentary that ended with her tongue and her fingers. And, well, my friend and I both said, wait, what? At the same time. And I have no idea what he's talking about, but that was an odd way to end a sentence. So, the match happens. Ronda won by putting Liv Morgan away with the armbar. I think Liv was tapping actually before the move was even applied, but whatever. Immediately after the bell, Ronda immediately attacked Charlotte and Becky, which was a nice touch that there was no delay, like she just went right at them. Security comes out. All three women beat up security. So then the cops come out. All three of them are still fighting. They're fighting with each other. They're fighting with the cops. One by one, they each end up getting handcuffed, and they keep trying to fight. This is a great segment already. It's chaos, and the fact that they hate each other is just so apparent through the fact that even with handcuffs and cops all around, they want to fight each other so badly that they don't even care who they're kicking. It's like whether it's each other or whether it's the cops. It was phenomenal stuff. They end up getting taken to the back, whatever. We go to break, come back from break, and it gets even better. They're backstage. They're sort of being loaded into cop cars and still trying to fight each other the whole time. Still trying to fight the cops. They get loaded into cop cars, and for some reason, like, I don't know if these are Keystone cops or what the story is, but the cops put Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch in the same back seat. Can you guess what happens? I'll bet you did. They start trying to kick at each other in the back seat of the car. Eventually, Ronda kicks out the freaking window of the car as they're fighting. The cops pull them out. The brawl ensues. And a reminder, all three women are handcuffed. So they're keeping up this fight while their hands are handcuffed. They're kicking the hell out of each other. At one point, they finally get Ronda Rousey into the backseat of a different car, or into the backseat of the car with the window kicked out. Ronda's got her head out the window. She's like talking trash to everybody. Charlotte gives her a knee to the side of the head, and it just looks so brutal because it's like it connects, and Ronda's neck goes up against like the broken out window frame, and I can only hope that all the gimmick glass was out of that, because that was a pretty rough spot. But man, that segment, oh, and at some point, get Ronda Rousey into the back of one of the cars and go to, Charlotte and Becky fighting. And all of a sudden you see Ronda's in the driver's seat of the one cop car and crashes it into the other police car. Jesus Christ is what we were thinking. I was marking out like crazy. I thought this was a phenomenal segment to build to that match on Sunday, because if there's any way to sell just how much these three women hate each other, this was the way to do it. They don't care about security. They don't care about cops. Ronda Rousey committed a felony in driving that cop car into the other one. They broke. Oh, it was awesome. I'm getting all worked up just thinking about it. But we've got more Raw to get to. Point is, that was the segment of the night. And if you haven't watched Raw, go out of your way to see that, because it was awesome. Now, cool down match. We had Heavy Machinery versus Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. Hey, remember when Bobby Roode and Chad Gable were in the tag team title picture? Not anymore. Heavy Machinery won via pinfall after 2 minutes? Minute and a half? I don't even know. Point is, Roode and Gable clearly are out of the picture. Moving on. Braun Strowman versus the two jobbers that he yelled at in the hallway on the earlier segment. I mean, you want to guess how it ends? Did you guess Braun Strowman? Because you were right. It was way longer than necessary. But the finish, where Braun got both of them up on his shoulders and hit the running power slam on both of them for a double running power slam, that was a cool spot. Squash worthwhile. Next up, Bobby Lashley came out for an in-ring interview with Charlie Caruso. My buddy and I, that I was watching with, we were going to fast forward, but Charlie Caruso was doing the interview, and we will not skip a Charlie Caruso segment. That said, nothing in the interview was worth repeating. For one, I mean, Bobby Lashley threw to a video again. During the in-ring promo, it drives me nuts. But the only other takeaway I had from that is that Bobby Lashley sucks on the microphone. That's why Lio Rush is there. So why do you have Lio Rush with you if you're doing the talking? It's pointless. Moving on to the main event. And I use that term loosely. Baron Corbin, complete with Olive Garden vest, versus Rey Mysterio. Now, part of the Mike Rome's Baron Corbin intro is Washington, D.C.'s favorite son, which made me laugh because he's always been billed from, and he's actually from, Kansas City. The best part of that is that even the commentary team, ridiculous that was. The other takeaway I got from the early part of this match is that, holy hell, Chad Patton, senior WWE official, basically the modern-day Mike Chioda, even though Chioda's still hanging around, but Chad Patton is the Mike Chioda of Raw at this point. He started growing a beard a few months ago. He started looking like Dean Ambrose's long-lost cousin, but I noticed tonight that, holy hell, his beard is getting long, and he's starting to not look so much like Dean Ambrose. Maybe that's the point. Anyway, in the end, and I skipped the whole match because nothing of note really happened. It was a fine match, but it wasn't nearly as good as the tag team title match earlier. So, you know, it is what it is. You get to the end, Baron Corbin actually won clean. Just pinned him clean in the middle of the ring. I fully expected some sort of interference from Kurt Angle or even Samoa Joe, since the two of those guys, Baron and Ray, have matches with those two guys at WrestleMania, but didn't get it. It was just a clean victory for Baron Corbin. Now, in case you don't know, I have a Grand Slam series I've been working for our page, and it ended at number 19. On Sunday at WrestleMania, Rey Mysterio could become the 20th Grand Slam champion if he wins the US title from Samoa Joe. So, what I'm hopeful for, based on the result of this match with Baron Corbin, given WWE's 50-50 booking tendency, is that he lost this match tonight because he's going to win on Sunday. So, if this weird-ass, clean victory for Baron Corbin over Rey Mysterio, which makes no sense, but hey, if that means that Rey wins on Sunday, then I am going to be retroactively okay with it. So, Baron Corbin wins, gets up to the top of the stage, then we get the Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle attacks him from behind, puts him in the ankle lock, everybody's happy. And in the end, everybody disappears. We get a little promo for WrestleMania. And for the first time that I can remember in a long time, the show went off the air with nobody on screen. It was just the crowd shot from way up in the upper deck. And that stood out to me because with the fantasy wrestling league I've been doing for a couple of years, and the one I'm bringing to our Patreon at patreon.com/Kayfabe Soup, I have had a point for whoever closes the show, whoever was the last person on screen. And so for the last 2 years at least, I've actually been paying attention to that. And tonight, nobody closed the show. Nobody was the last person on screen as they went off the air. So that stood out to me. It was a little weird, it was different, but I'm not complaining because, again, something different is something good. So in the end, Raw tonight was better than the last few weeks, because the last few weeks, considering they should be building to WrestleMania, have been terrible. Tonight, at least, while the first hour plus kind of dragged, that middle hour with the Ricochet and Aleister Black versus the Revival tag title match, and with the entire women's segments with Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky, which was actually multiple segments, that hour was phenomenal television between the great wrestling match and then the great storytelling angle with the three of them. And by the way, they were all taken not to a local not to a local medical facility, but as Michael Cole said, to a local precinct, which made me laugh because God forbid they get taken to a hospital or a police station. No, local precinct. Anyway, the great hour of television, and then the high of that hour made the final hour, which wasn't great, a little bit more enjoyable. Also, the only other takeaway I have from this, Batista's segment was pointless, and I think we can all agree on that. Somebody can correct me if they want, but that was dumb and it was pointless, and I honestly I think they've done more to harm the excitement of Triple H versus Batista than they have to help it in the last couple weeks. But hey, we'll see what happens on Sunday. So that is the Raw Report. I am PBR signing off. Top guys out.